and roll. All right, Kylie. So, yeah, one of the most important frameworks that we talk about in, the evolutionaries and, of course, in Infinite Alliance and Infinite Alchemy and all the stuff we do is spiral dynamics. And a lot of people have heard about this, but maybe don't know exactly what it is and how it's relevant to conscious evolution. So I was wondering whether you could just give us a little breakdown of what is spiral dynamics and why is it important for understanding conscious evolution?
Yeah. Okay. Well, spiral dynamics is a system of values, and the way that we value things changes over time, just naturally as we grow and evolve. And so spiral dynamics was developed to track the evolution of individuals and societies as they move through different stages of growth. And so, if you think about a seed growing into a tree, it starts very, as a tiny little seed that you need to plant in the ground. And then over time, it grows and grows into this huge complex thing. And so spiral dynamics really tracks that evolution from the seed of a person kind of born into the earth or dropped onto the earth, and how they evolve into, a complex human being with all sorts of different things going on. And so it's probably easiest to explain it with the visual. So I'll just pop that up. So spiral dynamics travels from this base level, which is down the bottom here, beige, which is level 1, survival, and we move upwards through the hierarchy. And so, one of the things to remember is that, even though this is hierarchical, what we're doing is, as we're growing, it's almost like a mother of pearl, like a pearl that has different layers and different layers and different layers. And so the seed layer is this sense of survival. And so it's our ability to feel like we're safe, like we can survive, like we've got enough food and shelter and, water and ability to rest and stop. And this is about like my survival needs being met. And so you can see that kind of in Western society, you might go, oh, we all have our survival needs met. Clearly, we're in a, functioning civilized society. But there's actually quite a lot of people that are, really quite stressed at the beige survival level, particularly now after COVID, with certain economic instability, housing crisis and cost of living crisis. There are a lot of people that are really struggling in this sense of, can I, living week to week, paycheck to paycheck, hand to mouth, all of those kind of statements are speaking to survival level issues. And so if you have survival level issues, that's the primary thing. If you think about kind of being held underwater, the only thing you're thinking about is, how do I get my next breath of air? You're not thinking about your goals or your long-term vision or your plans. It's just like, how do I get this next survival need met? And so that's the base level.
So that's what you mean when you talk about, impacting what people value. So if people are at that level, they just value things that are related to survival. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. They're valuing things that are related to survival. And so if you're, until that need is met, that is going to be the most important thing that they are going to value. They're not able to focus on anything else until that need has been taken care of to a sufficient degree. And so then once we, as we move through this, it moves into tribal. And so this is one of the ways that we can get those survival needs met, is by being with other people, being in a tribe, having our mom and dad initially is like, the first, when you first come out, you've come out of your mother, right? When you're first born, you come out of your mother one way or another. And so that's, beige and purple are very connected, because that tribal need is that sense of family, belonging, kinship. It relates also to sexuality. And so it's like your first tribe. So, your tribe helps you support your survival needs. And so that becomes, pretty much all through our early childhood, we're kind of operating on beige and purple. And so this sense of tribe and belonging and doing things that match with the tribe. And so that's a really powerful sense of belonging and being included and being loved when it's kind of functioning healthily. And I guess the challenge sometimes with tribe is that in order to stay in the tribe, you've got to follow the rules and customs and rituals of the tribe.
Mm.
So sometimes it can start to feel a little bit stifling as you grow and start to kind of think for yourself and be like, oh, maybe I want to do something different than my mum or dad or my sports team
Yeah.
wants me to do. And so then you might want to do something different. And that's where we start to move up into red, which is power, individuation, autonomy, our own sense of ego and sense of self, and what, you know, what do I want for me? And so spiral dynamics has this kind of sense of moving through different waves of being focused on me and myself, and then how my individual self relates to the people around me, to my tribe, to my community, to my family, to my nation, to the world at large. And
Got it.
so it relates in that way and kind of fluctuates between what's in it for me and how do I relate to others and how do I get love and belonging. So that's the kind of fluctuation that we go through. And this is you'll see here on the side, me, we, as we kind of go up through the memes. And so we start with survival and then have our tribe. And then we're like, hang on, I've got this tribe. And you think about, you know, a little toddler that wants mum nearby, tribal, purple need, but then wants to be able to go away and play, you know, maybe go and play at the edge of the park or go and play where mum can't see or run away, you know, and have that sense of individuality and sense of self. But it's like, I'll get that individual need met, but then I want to be able to come back to mum. And so that's the kind of layering of developing my power and autonomy and individuation, and then coming back to the tribe. And so as you start to develop, this power level starts to move into like, well, as it's developing over time, you think about societies, that power level is, you know, if you think about conquerors going out and, you know, the Roman Empire or Genghis Khan or various, you know, conquerors I mean, we've got a conqueror happening right now in the world. A few probably going on. But when we're in that kind of conquering state, it's like there's chaos and destruction because whoever has the most power and is willing to use the most violence or the most force will end up in control of the system. But then you have a chaotic kind of experience, like maybe it's a war zone or maybe there's a famine because someone's come in and kind of taken over. And so that's happening at a societal level. At an individual level, it's like, okay, I've gone out on my own. I'm doing my own thing. I've, you know, ignored what mum and dad says, and I'm going to go and forge my own path.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you've got to interact with society. And so you need some systems. You need a credit card or a social security number or a tax file number or whatever those things are to be able to interact with society. You need to have some order. And Blue Meme is about order. And so that order and structure then creates the systems that help support you so that you can thrive as an individual and interrelate with society in a healthy way while you have your power and agency and autonomy. I could keep going. Any insights from there? Sushi.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's great to track these, I guess, across different like life stages and to see how these values are, you know, as you said, I've got a 3-year-old toddler and she does exactly that. You know, she runs as far away as she can from me and then looks back just to make sure that, you know, dad's still there and mum's still there. And, you know, as she sort of transitions into kindergarten now, it's, well, how do you get them to show up at the same place at the same time, to sit in a group and move from that chaotic, I want all my needs met, to now playing with society, i.e., you know, kids.
Other kids.
So it's me and we, because she's going to want friends, and otherwise she's going to have to run back to mum and dad, and we don't, you know, want that to happen. So it's interesting to track that at that youth level. That's great. And then, so I guess it may even be worth mentioning here around age. Like, obviously you can see that at the level of toddlers, but you mentioned it can happen at the adult level of society as well. So can you maybe speak to what some of these tensions are between individuation and collectivism, sort of between power and truth, that, like, you know, people might be facing in their lives as an adult?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's the interesting piece is, like, as we go through these, we're constantly facing the tension between these opposing forces, because each of the levels, it's almost like it pushes off from the one before by rejecting it in a way. It's like oh, okay, I've got my survival needs met. And so now I'm going to create, now I'm going to have my family and I'm going to share with my family and my tribe. And then it's, okay, I've got my love and belonging needs met and I've got people around me. And it's like, now you guys are kind of starting to annoy me and you've been around too much and I need some individuation.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm going to go get my own space and do my own thing and go to my, whatever it is, my own space to have my vibe. And then it's like, oh, okay, I'm in my own space doing my own thing. Well, that's kind of lonely. So how do I then interact with society in a healthy, functioning way? Well, I need some systems in place. I need some structure. Or maybe it's like I spend morning with my family and then I go and work with my teammates, or I work in my office, and then I have some alone time. And so you start to put structure in place to meet those needs. And so each of these things is kind of a paradox because they're kind of repelling or seemingly in conflict with each other. But in fact, they just kind of layer on top, and each level emerges from the one before it. But some of the tensions that we might feel is, when we're in a lot of societies kind of operating from red and blue and orange meme. We didn't talk about that one yet, but orange meme is this sense of prosperity or wanting to success and pragmatism and science and logic and, being decisive and kind of going out in the world. And that's a sense of, it's a more complex version of the red meme. So all of these kind of warm colors are, survival, power, prosperity, up to synergy. They're all individualistic value sets, is like, what is in it for me? And then the tribal sets is like the purple, tribal, truth, and then community, and then holistic up into second tier. That's, obviously the cooler colors, more blue based colors in this model. And so there's this sense of, how am I interacting with others? And so there's constantly this tension of, how can I get my needs met? And how can I be a part of a society that respects, loves, and includes me and my gifts and my autonomy and my sense of self? And, people are all different, and we all have different ways of looking at the world, and different things that we like and we don't like, and different things that we're into and we're not into. And so, a lot of people will find this tension between, how do I get my needs met and how do I interact with the people that I love, or, the society that I need to be a part of to function healthily. And so if you think about the kind of red orange value system, people that are more in that kind of sense of individualistic agency and power, and wanting to do things on their own terms and go out and kind of make a difference in their own way, they tend to be, obviously this is broad strokes, but they tend to be more entrepreneurial, creating their own businesses or working within a small kind of agile business so that they can have that sense of autonomy and agency. And then those that are, more community-based people, and there's no right or wrong here, right? There's no better or worse. Our kind of, our minds can sometimes go, oh, this is better and this is not, this is better and this is worse, or this is good and this is bad. And that's not how we want to approach this. They're all important and they all matter. And so there's that individualistic sense that might be more entrepreneurial. And then there's the people that are more kind of tribal based, that want to be a part of a team and want to, want to be a part of a community. And, so we've got kind of co-ops and community groups and, PTAs, and then corporations, and then, military and hospitals, and all of these things that require a lot of people to make it function, and a lot of people working together to actually support a common outcome. And so that's the kind of blue meme playing out. And so, if you think about all of the infrastructure that we get to just be supported by, having roads and hospitals and schools and, tax breaks and, tax support if you're, if you've fallen on hard times in Australia, it's a very, supportive system. Those types of things come from having order and having multiple people working towards a common outcome. But the challenge there, the tension there, is that as people evolve, you might kind of go out on your own, and then you get a job at a company that you love, which is, more of a blue meme. You have to kind of abide by the company's KPIs and what they want you to do and when they want you to show up.
Mhm.
And so then you might feel the tension of like, well, I actually just want to start to do my own thing. I'm sick
Mm.
of following this structure and I want to go out on my own, but feeling maybe a bit scared to do that, and not knowing what to do and how to structure yourself when you're just all on your own. And so it's interesting when I think about franchising as a business model.
Mm.
Franchising is a really interesting, like there's a lot of talk around like franchising and MLMs and different things. And when I think about what place that serves in society, it's a really interesting midpoint between red and blue and orange. It's like giving people the structure so that they can go out on their own, but also be a part of something and also
Yeah.
have the systems and structures.
It's like a business in a box.
Yeah, business in a box type of things. And so that's very appealing for someone who wants to start their own thing, but is a bit afraid and like, oh, I don't know how to start a whole business by myself. I don't know where to go with that structure.
Yeah.
And so that's a really interesting kind of piece. And so when we start to look at society through this lens, through this model, you can start to see how different people perceive the world in different ways and how different people are just valuing different things. And what we're about in Alliance is kind of reaching this second tier consciousness. And that's where we get up to this holistic, synergistic sense where we start to see, oh, actually all of these types of values are important and all of them are necessary for a functioning, healthy society. And in fact, all of them what we're kind of working through is this piece of they're actually all really required in an individual to be functioning and working really well, and to not have shadows or judgments in each of these, so that any one of us can be a healthy, functioning, individuated, autonomous, expressive human being. So yeah, there's a lot we can go into.
Yeah, love it. Well, I mean, what might be
Talk all
interesting,
day.
we absolutely love to talk all day. But I think what will be interesting is for a lot of the people watching this, I know the kind of people we attract and we really resonate with are people in that green tier around, altruism, compassion, and fairness. And I think
Yes.
what's kind of interesting to note is that you can move up to some of these levels around and wanting to be like that without even necessarily having met all of the ones beneath as well, or having some gaps. And you always talk about the Swiss cheese where you've got some holes. Or even certainly for people like this, I know, if they've gone through that sort of corporate world and they're looking for something with a bit more meaning, this is where this green state is so important, where I think we really attract a lot of people, because this is where the introspection comes online and where people can start to then, really start reconciling what appear to be quite contradictory values around altruism and affluence, right? Like, can you get rich and can you be altruistic at the same time? Around compassion and dominance. Can you, can you be compassionate and dominant at the same time? Or can you get your instant gratification and compassion met at the same time? So, do you want to speak a little bit to what second tier consciousness is? You mentioned that, and then sort of, the reconciliation of some of these tensions.
Yeah. Okay. So if I just kind of look at this one, which speaks to the different tiers. So this is the same model, just a slightly different version of it. So we've got beige to purple, red to blue, orange to green here. And then you'll see yellow is where, we've got this altruistic, egalitarian, community-centered, maybe more social activist, more humanitarian, more philanthropic. It's like, I've got my needs met enough so that I can care about other people. And like you said, sometimes we can go almost up these lines. And so get my tribe needs met and go straight into getting order, and then go up into caring about others. And so we're kind of ascending on the tribal pathway and not ascending on the individualized pathway. And so we can sometimes
I hadn't seen that. That's really cool.
Isn't it interesting? So you can go up and be like, oh, I'm evolving in my sense of tribe, but I'm not yet. Maybe I have conditioned beliefs that I can't stand out, or maybe I got punished for asking for what I want, or maybe I was the fifth or 13th child out of a bunch of children. And it's like, well, your needs are just like at the very bottom of the pile.
Yeah.
And so that sense of autonomy and agency and like what I want matters maybe wasn't nourished in whatever family situation you grew up in. And so sometimes we can evolve on one side and be a little kind of lopsided on the other. So it tends to happen that we'll either be kind of more self-focused and be very individuated on, okay, I can survive and I'm gonna make sure I'm going to survive and I've got my physical needs met and I'm going to like get my home in order and I'm going to do what I want and go out in the world and, you know, make my life matter and I'm going to succeed. And so that's the very me-centered approach. And that kind of tends to be that entrepreneurial pathway. And then we have obviously this tribal we-centered approach, like we talked about before. And so lots of people that come to us from this standpoint are kind of in this green-centered values where they want to give back, they want to make a difference, they want to make an impact, they want to help the world, save the world, you know, make a difference, make it a better place for you. You know, that it's like heal the world. So coming from that heal the world type of perspective, sometimes we find that we can, and this was certainly me as well. So this is kind of a fractal of my personal story in a way, is like that sense of wanting to help others and sometimes doing it at the expense of ourselves. And so that's where the kind of archetype of the wounded healer or the overworked police person or the first responder ambo or the nurses and doctors that just kind of run themselves ragged through COVID, serving everyone that needs help and not serving themselves, not getting their needs met. And so that's where this kind of sense of, like we said, Swiss cheese can happen. If you think about the mother of pearl analogy, where I think there's layers. I might have this one here. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
So we've got the layers here, like all these different layers. But if we have gaps in some of those layers, then we might want to reach for the stars and we might want to save the world, but we keep getting like, falling down because our own needs are not met. And so we don't have integrity, even though we have huge aspirations, we don't have enough structural integrity in the system, not ethical integrity, because we might have heaps of ethical integrity, but not the structural integrity to actually fulfill on our visions.
Love it. Beautiful. So, love it. All right. Well, we're going to stop there. That's amazing. But if people want to learn more, go check out the masterclass that talks all about marketing presentation video, whatever you want to call it. Our video where we explain what it is, what we're up to, how I'd love you to be part of it if this resonates. And looking forward to seeing you there, because the way that we actually fix this is with shadow work, which we'll discuss in another video.